to see you here, and thanks for taking time. I just wanted to acknowledge that a lot of you and a lot of people across the country will be very anxious about the situation that's unfolding with the conflict in Iran going now into its 9th day. And I know that people are watching that, they're concerned about that, and I wanted to reassure you about some of the measures that we're taking as a government. The first is the work we're doing with allies in the region, so the countries in particular that are under attack, many of the Gulf countries who obviously have played no part themselves in any attack on Iran are nonetheless being attacked. So as you would imagine, we're working very closely with them, helping with defensive capability. We've got fighter jets in there, and we've increased the capability there over the course of the last 9 days. Anti-drone devices, radar, and lots of other work that we're coordinating. And I've been speaking to all the leaders in the region, some of them a number of times over, to assess how they feel the situation is on the ground, what more we can do. These are allies, these are friends of our country we've been working with for many years. So that's what we're doing on that front. The second big issue is obviously we've got about 300,000 British nationals in the region. Some of them live there, have done for some time. Some of them are on holiday there. Some of them were just changing planes. And they're all very concerned about the situation they're in. And I know that friends and family in this country are very, very concerned because they want to know that their loved ones are safe. So we're working with commercial airlines, working with all the countries involved to make sure that firstly people register their presence. 300,000 are there in the region. 120-something thousand have registered their presence. That means we're in touch with them and we can help them, give them information and advice. And where they want to come home, make sure that with commercial airlines and charter airlines, we're providing the means for them to get back. Not always easy because the airspace is closed in some places for some of the time, depending on the threat levels. But we got 35,000 back so far, and we're working, as you'd expect, around the clock in relation to those operations. The third area I just wanted to address, because I think as we go into this sort of what feels like the second week of this conflict, a lot of people are going to begin to think, well, that's happening out in Iran and in the Gulf states, but I can sense it's going to affect me back here in the United Kingdom, particularly the economy. We've done a lot of work recently on the cost of living, which we know is the #1 issue for so many people across the country, and an anxiety about that. On the reassurance front, I think it is important just to remind ourselves that last time a conflict began to develop, which was 2022, in relation to Ukraine, the economy wasn't in a stable place, and inflation was 5% and rising. We've done a lot of work in the last 18 months to put some resilience in and make sure that we've got some headroom, which is basically some insurance within the economy, but also inflation is 3% and going down. So in that sense, there's more resilience. But the job of government is obviously to get ahead, to look around the corner, to work with others. And the Chancellor speaks to the Governor of the Bank of England on a daily basis. We're looking cross-departmental within government, assessing the risks, monitoring, and talking to our international partners as well about what more we can do together to reduce the likely impact on people here and businesses here, of course. But it is important to acknowledge that that work is needed because people will sense, you will sense, I think, that the longer this goes on, the more likely the potential for an impact on our economy, impact into the lives and households of everybody and every business. And our job is to get ahead of that, to look around the corner, assess the risk, monitor the risks, and work with others in relation to that. And then the final thing I just wanted to talk to you about, and we're going to have a Q&A in a minute so I can get the benefit of your views, which will be really helpful from my point of view, is this really sad feature in many ways of a conflict like this, which is some people will try to use it to divide communities in this country. and tear people apart. And we mustn't let that happen. I find one of the most powerful arguments that if you think of all the people who are stuck in the region, anxious about their own safety, wanting to get home, they come from all backgrounds. They come from all walks of life. And the last thing they want, or their families here want, is anybody trying to divide. Because this is a time when we need to come together as a country, stand behind our principles and our values, and not let people divide us. Put a lot of reassurance work in with both the Muslim community and the Jewish community in particular, because that's where people seek to try and find a divide. But we're also setting out our social cohesion plan today, which is a broader piece of work about how we bring people together as a country, make sure that we build on what we all care about, which is very much pride in our communities, pride in who we are as a country, pride, of course, in the places that we all come from. Everybody's got a pride about where they come from. And that real sense of making sure that we do integrate and we're one country standing together, particularly at a time like this, and that we bear down on extremism and division, because it's very important all the time to do that. It's particularly important at the moment. And so that's what we're doing as we turn into this week. So I think what you'll see is the focus going more to what impact might this have back in the United Kingdom. This will be happening across all countries, really, and really to reassure you about the work the government is doing to get ahead of that and to monitor the risk, assess the risk and work with others across our own government, but actually with other countries. Part of the response at a time like this has to be constantly talking to leaders in other countries, particularly in the region, but also across Europe when it comes to the economy and other measures. So that's all I'll say for now. I think I've got some questions from you, so this is your chance. Anybody got any questions that they want to ask? I think we'll do the old-fashioned way of putting a hand up, if that's all right. Yes, I'll try and do a question behind me whilst facing this way. It's always a skill, but hopefully I can master it. I think we've got a microphone coming for you so you can be heard.
Is that okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good morning. My question is, what are you doing to bring communities together in this world that is so divided, and what is in place?
Yeah, this is really important. I mean, it is a really sad feature, isn't it, of a time like this, that some people will try and use it as an opportunity to divide. So I think on two levels we're working. The first is we have to be really conscious that where people want to divide at the moment in relation to this conflict, it's in the space of trying to divide the Muslim community and the Jewish community. So we're working particularly on those two strands. There is a sort of broader cohesion plan that we've been working on for some time, which is not just a reaction to this conflict, obviously, is much broader, which is how do we bring the country together? One of my biggest concerns at the moment is that there's too many people in politics who want to set up grievances between different groups of people, to point fingers and divide and say that we can't be one country, we can't be one set of communities. I totally disagree with that. I think one of the great things about this country is we're a diverse country where we prove actually that different people can live alongside each other in a tolerant way with our values. And actually that's more than just an observation on who we are as a country, it's what we are as a country. That is us. And we should hold that close, we should be proud of it. And so the cohesion plan is intended to make sure that everything is being put in place to support the work we're doing there. Let us go to another question. Yes, please.
So you plan to have a ban on social media for under 16-year-olds. Obviously, a lot of young people use social media and view it as an asset. How do you plan to actually consult young people more into policy making if this is a huge disagreement between you and young people?
Well, look, thank you for raising that. I see you've got My Life, My Say on, which is a great organisation that we've worked with for a long time. We're consulting on it, so no decisions have been made yet, and I want the voice of young people in that consultation. I'm very, very interested to hear.
How do you see that practically being happened, though?
Well, the consultation is just starting its course, so there are lots of ways you can get involved in that. I'll make sure my team give you all the details, but also we need to set up discussion points. Maybe with My Life, My Say might be one way of doing it, shouldn't be the only way of doing it. So we'll make sure that young people have their say. They must have their say in this, because there are different views here, and that's the whole point of the consultation. So thank you for raising that. Let me go across to this side of the room.
What are we doing about the housing crisis? What is being done about the housing crisis? There are 400,000 people homeless here in England alone. So
Yeah, well, there are two separate strands here. One is homelessness, where we've put in a huge amount of investment to deal with homelessness, to get people into shelter, but also more than just into shelter, because for many people who've got homelessness issues, it's about the support that needs to go in as well, in terms of maybe health issues, work issues, etc. So there's the roof over the head element to it. That is vital, but on its own it's not enough. Then secondly, we need to take the pressure points off in relation to people being made homeless in the first place. One of the pressure points is no-fault evictions for renters, and so we're getting rid of that. This is where, until recently, people could be thrown out of their rented accommodation through no fault of their own, and then that puts a pressure on them and on local authorities, making sure that all the work we're doing on the cost of living is making sure people have more money in their pockets, so they don't necessarily get into the difficulties in the first place. And so there's the preventative bit, but there's also, what do we do to support those who are homeless? There's a bigger picture here as well, which is we need to build more houses to make sure that everybody has a safe, secure place to grow up, whether that's somewhere they're able to buy and own of their own, or whether it's the rented sector. We passed the Renters' Rights Act, which is the biggest piece of legislation for renters, giving them rights in a generation. 11 million people are in rented accommodation. We should never forget that, and they need better rights. So there's a lot of stuff we're doing in that space. And take one last question, and I'm going to go to the media, and then I'm going to come round to your tables so we can continue the discussion. Madam, if I may.
I work with young people who are at risk here. Do you mind if you need me to?
It's just otherwise we could.
Anxiety. I work with young people who are at risk here. The thresholds are really high for them to be helped, both of violence against them or children with special needs. Can you do something to get them the help at the right time so that they can go on to have better outcomes than they do?
It's vital that we do. All of the evidence is absolutely clear that you need to intervene early, because if you miss those opportunities, it can take a lifetime before you can turn it around. So putting more resource in. We've got a youth strategy which was put together with young people. I'm really pleased. We didn't do a youth strategy with politicians in Whitehall deciding what the youth strategy should be. We actually got young people in as a steering group and advice group to do it. And they said they need more resource, they need more support in the activities that they want to do, need more mental health provision in schools and support. We're looking at the SEND, the special educational needs in schools, to see how we can improve there. But across the board, we have to do more of that. I'll come back to you and have a discussion about it. Can I just go? I think we've got two questions from the media. Catherine, I think you first, and then we've got David here as well. Catherine.
Thank you, Prime Minister. President Trump has said, among other things, that he's disappointed in you, that you're no Churchill, and that gas and oil prices going through the roof is, quote, a small price to pay. It will feel to many people like the special relationship is in tatters. Were you able to begin to mend it in your phone call yesterday? And also, can you just reassure people that the government will have their backs on energy? Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Let me address a number of points there. The first is, it's really important to emphasise that the US and the UK are working together every single day, as they always have. Obviously, in relation to Iran, the US are now using UK air bases under the agreement that we've reached. But more generally than that, intelligence is being shared every day. In the region, we have our military personnel and US military personnel co-located in the same places, in the same bases. And both the US and the UK are working together, protecting those bases. So in terms of the relationship, the work that we necessarily have to do together is going on as you'd expect. I had a telephone call with President Trump yesterday talking about the conflict in Iran and the region and what we were doing together, and that was important in terms of the ongoing discussion. But the discussion with our US counterparts is happening at all levels, all of the time, every single day. That's the nature of the relationship. What I would say is this, is that decisions about what's in Britain's best interests are decisions for the Prime Minister of Britain. And that's how I've approached all of the questions and all the decisions that I've had to make. It is really important, that's a fundamental principle, that it is the UK Prime Minister, who everybody expects, the people of the United Kingdom would expect, that the UK Prime Minister would make the decisions using our values, our principles, in the best interest of our country. And it's really important that we are very, very clear about that principle. We're obviously working more generally with leaders and allies across the region, both in relation to the defensive work that needs to go in and in relation to the work to get people out of the region. Very many British nationals are there. So thank you for that. David, can I come to you?
Thanks very much, Prime Minister. Yeah, just want to ask about, you've come here today to acknowledge the cost of living pressures that this situation in Iran could present for people here in this room and across the country. That they're going to be worried about their pockets and the effect on the money in their pockets. What practical steps might we actually see from the government to help people across the country? Are we going to see something similar to the state intervention that came in after the price spikes caused by the Ukraine war, for example? And I just want to ask one other thing about Donald Trump as well. A year ago, roughly speaking, the US president had Volodymyr Zelensky in the White House, and there was that dust-up, which I think we all remember quite clearly. At the time, he suggested that Ukraine was gambling with World War III. Is the US president now gambling with World War III?
Let me address both of those issues. Firstly, the cost of living, because I am acutely aware that across the country, the number one issue is still the cost of living. People being concerned about whether they've got enough money to pay the bills and the anxiety that it causes if you can't pay the bills. And when I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of money in my family. We had occasions where we literally sat around the kitchen table because we couldn't pay the bills. I know personally what that feels like, and therefore I know what people in this country are going through. That's why in the 18 months or so we've been in government, we've done so much on the cost of living, because where we can take the pressure out, whether that's improving wages in the first place, whether that's taking money off energy bills, which we've been able to do, freezing rail fares, prescription charges, free school meals, free childcare. All of these are intended measures to try and ease that pressure. I'm not going to pretend that that pressure's gone away or that any of these are silver bullets, but each of them plays a part in helping on the cost of living. So I do understand the anxiety now at 9 days into this conflict, where a number of people will be saying, well, now is the situation going to get worse, and how's it going to impact me and my family? At the moment, what we're doing is monitoring the risk, working with others to mitigate the risk. The Chancellor is talking to the Bank of England every day to make sure that we're ahead of that. I would just say on energy prices for households, the energy price cap is in place until June, and therefore we're not anticipating that is going to change, which will give a degree of reassurance. But of course, businesses and others will be concerned to watch carefully what's going on. Thank you very much on that. In relation to the conflict in Iran, look, it is important that we do everything we can to protect international allies in the region, particularly those who are neighbouring countries who've played no part in any of the offensive actions. So there are many in the region who are being subjected to strikes, missiles and drones, even though they played no part. And that is a threat to civilians, it's a threat to our civilians who are in the region, it's a threat to our personnel who are in the region, our military personnel, and of course to the people living there. And therefore it's right for us to be working with those countries to put in as much capability as we can to deal with those incoming missiles, deal with those incoming drones and make sure we take down the threat assessment there. More generally, and in answer to your question, we do need to find a way to de-escalate the situation, and that's what a lot of our discussions are about. How do we find a way to de-escalate this situation and make sure it doesn't escalate even further than it already has. Thank you very much. I'm going to now sit down. I think this looks like the empty chair, so I'll come here first and then move around, and I'll come back to you on your questions.